Hey everyone, welcome to Lady Overlander Radio. Tonight we're speaking with Roseann Hanson, the founder of Overland Expo. Stay tuned.
Grab your favorite drink, whether it's a coffee, cocktail, or tea, and get ready. It's Ladies' Night on Lady Overlander Radio. The Lady Overlander Radio podcast is sponsored by Frontrunner Outfitters, Midland Radio, Go Treads, Sport Keg, CB Adventure Supply, Adventure Trail Outfitters, Overland Spices, and the More Expo.
Hey Arla, hey girl, hey.
Girl, hey. Are you in civilization, kind of?
If you count my cabin in the mountains of Arkansas civilization, then yes. We're in civilization. We're not camping right now, so
about that much more.
a little bit like civilization, except for the internet is crazy right now, and I've got my Starlink up as a backup, but who knows what's going on with that as well. So it's doing some kind of update. So, first world problems.
Technology at its finest.
Oh yeah, it actually worked better when I was out in the middle of nowhere in Wyoming, but there's that.
That's true. How is it hot up in your neck of the woods?
It's not bad. It's been in the 80s, but we're up at elevation a little bit. Not as much, a little bit more than you, but yeah, it's been in like the 80s, and it's been really breezy, so it hasn't been terrible.
103 yesterday and 101 today.
I can't do it.
Before the humidity is piled on. So like 113 today is where we're hanging at.
I'm not a fan. I'll stay up here in the mountains.
There's a reprieve this weekend. It'll be a little better. They're saying it's going to be in the 80s, lows in the 60s. So I'm super excited about that.
Me too.
I need a timeout.
So what do we have coming up on our itinerary in the next month or two?
Oh, Lord. We are booked up as far as the podcast goes. Some weeks we have 2 that week. Just trying to accommodate everybody's schedules right now. Everybody's really busy. So there's a couple of weeks where we're going to have like a Monday, Wednesday go down. We've got Mountain West coming up at the end of August that Misti and I will both be at.
Yes.
More things to come in the next few weeks on that. We're not going to really say anything about it just yet. We've got Teton Overland Show mid-September. That's the 15th through the 17th in Idaho. After that, we got Big Iron Overland Rally in Mineral Springs, Kansas. That's the end of September. And then we have something called, Expo East or something like that. Yeah. That's coming out in October. And then Rendezvous in the Ozarks.
Yeah.
Right after that. So pretty crazy the next couple of months.
And who knows what's coming up after that. So.
And who knows what's happening in between that.
That's true.
Well, you never know. Things are going to happen. We know this already. But we got a lot going on.
Speaking of Overland Expo, however, our guest tonight was the founder of Overland Expo initially back in 2009. So, Roseann, I'd like you to give a little background on yourself, and we have lots to talk to you about, all kinds of things that you've been up to in addition to founding Overland Expo. But let's start with that. How did all that come about?
Hi, thanks for having me. Yes, so Overland Expo was something that came about because my husband and I have been overlanders since we were married. In fact, I think I've been doing it since I was a little kid. My parents packed us all 5 kids into our travel-all, and we'd head to Mexico for weeks. And so I think it was in my blood. And in my 20s, I realized going to off-road shows with Jonathan, my husband, we were married quite young, that there was no place for women in the in the space. Except, well, women were at the off-road shows at the time, but they were objects. They were there in bikinis draped over vehicles, and there weren't any drivers or women doing much in that space, even though I knew that there were loads of us. So when my husband co-founded Overland Journal in 2007, to help support that, I came from a background of doing, well, a lot of different things, but one of the things I did was I created a lot of events for organizations like Audubon, Smithsonian, and some of the big organizations. So I created Overland Expo as a way to bring people together who were interested in exploring, not in conquering landscapes, just going out and seeing what they could climb or get stuck. But for people who truly wanted to get out, camp, explore, see new places, and also a space where families and women felt comfortable. So right off the get-go, I offered free daycare for families so that when you came, you didn't have to be the one watching all the kids. And we had a kids adventure program, so kids would have stuff to do.
Great.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I've noticed over the past, so we've started the podcast about 2 years ago. And my family and I have been traveling full time for the past 6 years. But I've noticed in the past couple of years, there are a lot more women, maybe not a lot more women that are entering into the overlanding realm, but there are a lot more women that are being noticed. I think that there's always been, solo female travelers going through Africa and going all over these amazing places, because I've done a lot of research and I've found numerous stories from years and years and years ago of all of these people, women, couples, everybody doing this. Mm-hmm. But you never hear about it. And that just amazes me, because predominantly, I think that most people believe that overlanding or off-roading or camping or any of those type of outdoor activities are still predominantly male. And maybe they are, but I think that there are a lot more women that want to get out and explore, want to adventure, want to go and do things and see places that they've never been, but they may be a bit hesitant because they feel like they're the only ones.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I think when we started, social media was just getting going. Mm-hmm. So that wasn't a thing yet, influencers and the attention you can get to support your trips and things. So we are seeing a lot more solo women travelers, family travelers. I've met so many wonderful families who are out. I just heard from Sylvia, whose family, is she 12, 13? She just emailed me. We met at the last Overland Expo West. And so we've been emailing back and forth. So there's a young woman who's being raised within the overlanding world. Her family's full-time overlanding. So it's not that we didn't exist. It's just that the gatherings didn't exist where it was comfortable and a place where families and women had a place that was welcoming in a way that you weren't objectified. And also we offered a whole lot of women's only classes. And it was funny, I got some pushback at the beginning, not just from men, but also from some ladies who said, "Oh, you're doing women's classes. That means they're watered down, right?" And I was like, "No, they're not watered down. It's just we remove the guys, because sometimes there's, you get a little funny when you've got an audience, or heck, I don't learn well with Jonathan. I can't learn from him. The best learning happens like when I'm with someone else, because we've been married for almost 40 years. And so I know what our limitations are. For example, I learned to back up a truck and a trailer from a fellow woman overlander, not from Jonathan, because he would do this thing when I was backing up where he would, if you're like, we can't see our hands necessarily on radio right now, but he would be using his hands to back up, doing the spotting. And if I wasn't going fast enough, he would like move his hands faster. And I didn't want to, hit him. Like, no, I'm going to go at the speed that I want. So anyway, I learned from Sarah Batten, who was the lead instructor with Land Rover at the time. And I mean, she taught me in like 5 minutes. I'm like, now I can back up a trailer anywhere. It's awesome. But it's funny. So that's why I thought, well, it's better if we learn independently. And I always encouraged ladies who were traveling with their husbands. It's sometimes we tend to some of us let our husbands do most of the driving, but I learned in many cases of say situations where someone got injured and the partner could not drive the vehicle out to rescue them. So that was an interesting. That was one of the reasons too, is just to encourage and empower people.
I agree completely, and yes. I've even told my children, once you guys are legally old enough, you will learn how to drive off-road first.
Yes.
I want to know that because I feel if they're learning how to drive off-road, they're paying more attention, because I think it's, sure. It's a lot easier to sit on a paved highway and, kind of daydream and
that's right.
Do whatever. But if you're there and you're concentrating and you're on a kind of a moderately difficult trail and you have to pay attention to your lines and, where you're going and look out for animals and look out for,
Yep. You have to learn where you're approaching angles and departure angles, and therefore, where your vehicle starts and ends. And right. It's just it's also extremely gratifying to be able to pilot your own vehicle or motorcycle in challenging situations. And so one of our youngest instructors is Grace Howard. I think, well, she's no longer instructing with the show. Grace started with me when she was 9 years old. She founded the kids program. Grace could drive a left-hand drive Land Rover off-road before she got her license on road, and was one of our top instructors. And awesome. She's a great mechanic, and really today, I think she just turned 22, is that right? And is this summer working for the BLM and piloting her own government vehicle out in the backcountry. So it's really cool.
That's amazing. I love hearing stories like that. And I love following, we follow other families with kids in addition to our own adventures. We follow other families. We follow solo female travelers, and just, it's really inspirational to see people that aren't afraid to get out there and learn how to drive those vehicles themselves, learn how to do that independent travel, relying only on what they have with them. And I just think that it's something that needs to be highlighted. And I think that Overland Expo, from what I've seen, is very good at that. I've been to a few of the expos at this point, and I've instructed at a few. And I love that they are having these, women's roundtable discussions and, different types of meetups and things. And, women's only, wrenching classes. A friend of ours, Tara McGovern, does those at some of the expos. And again, it's not to exclude men. It's not to diminish, any type of male influence in the overlanding or off-roading community. It is to empower more women to not be afraid to ask questions, not be afraid to engage. And sometimes when there's a mixed crowd, and I've had many people agree with this, including men, when there's a mixed crowd, sometimes it's hard to speak up or hard to ask questions because you feel a little intimidated.
Yeah, and for couples too, there's a dynamic that can be difficult that I noticed. There was a incident that really jumped out at me. It had a hilarious ending, though. A guy was yelling at his wife driving his vehicle, right? His vehicle. My husband and I got around that. We each have our own vehicles. It's like
exactly.
Yes.
Don't you touch my vehicle.
That's right.
But he made her cry because he was yelling at her because she wasn't understanding how to do something. And that's a lot of what made me want to have the classes where we split up the husbands. Even if you're with someone else's husband, it's like, it doesn't matter. But your husband or like I said, my husband, I don't learn well from Jonathan. So that what we ended up doing at the time, Land Rover was one of our sponsors. So we ended up giving her a Land Rover for the weekend. We're talking about a brand new Land Rover.
Wow.
And she fell in love with it. And the last thing I heard from the guy was like, "Oh, thanks. Now we're going to have to buy one." So he yelled at her, and then it cost him about $90,000.
Wow.
Men, I hope you learned from that.
Lesson learned, hey?
No, I agree. I mean, I enjoy traveling and exploring with my husband, but learning things, sometimes our communication isn't great, or you're just, I don't even know what it is. You're just so non-receptive to what they have to say because you literally hear what they have to say every day. I don't know what it is.
I agree. No, it's
just
age-old couples communication, and there's nothing wrong with that. And also you're tense, and let's face it, sometimes these vehicles are our babies. And you know, Jonathan, my husband is not like that. He's always encouraging me to, I mean, I'm trying to remember how many vehicles we own right now, but we own a lot. But his 1973 Land Cruiser FJ40, which he's owned since it was almost new, and it's our baby, but he's always like, "Oh no, just take the 40." I'm like, "Oh my God, no," because I know if I pranked it or did something to it, I'd die. So I know that we get very protective of our vehicles, and I understand that. I totally get it. So that's why our Land Cruiser Troop Carrier is technically mine, and his is the 40. I think we're all a Land Cruiser family right now. I sold my Land Rover.
I'm down with that. I love Land Cruisers. I had an 80 series for quite a while.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I had a 60 series for a long time too. I actually missed that one a lot. Yeah. And I'm looking at an 80. I'm considering an 80 or the Lexus GX equivalent. I need something a little more modern for some of the work that I'm doing. I mean, we have really old, we have a 1973 and a 1980, 90, 93. The Troopy is a 93.
Very nice. Yeah, I saw, I think both of them at Expo West.
Yeah.
Both of them there?
Yeah. We had them both in the booth because the 40 is like so eye candy. It's it's got over 300,000 miles, all working miles, and it's original paint, but it's still gorgeous. It's been well taken care of, and it's such a sweet vehicle. I love it. Our first date was in it, so he's never allowed to sell it.
Aw,
sweet.
Every once in a while, he'll say, "Oh, I'm thinking about selling the 40." I'm like, "No, my dead body, no."
No, absolutely not.
Aw, that's sweet.
So, am I freezing up a little still?
Nope, you're good to go.
Okay, good. It seemed like it was starting to again, and I was going to try to switch again if it was going to cause problems.
You're good.
So you had Overland Expo, the whole event series, for about 10 years, correct?
Yes, we ran through the 10th year, and then I realized it was, and I introduced a second show in the East in 2013, I think 14, and it just got to be too much. It was ready for it to get to the next level, and it just was more than I wanted to do. And I had been talking with Lindsay and Jessica, who are from a family who has been doing off-road events for a very long time. And I loved the idea of selling it to women And so sold it to them in 2019, and bless their hearts, they kept it going during COVID.
That's tough.
Which, I think Jonathan and I might have been able to last a year, but they lasted 2 years without shows and kept everyone employed. And I just think they are heroes for that. And they've kept the heart of it. Of course they've changed it, but all in all, it's still run by the same team that I had. And so it's really still a wonderful event, and I do miss it, but I don't miss running it.
I don't blame you.
It became a monster. It was huge.
It's just, we've gone to West, and that was our first Overland Expo this year, was West. And that was overwhelming for us.
Wow.
We weren't even running anything.
Yeah.
So it's like its own monster. And then I just came back from Pacific Northwest, which was awesome. I love that venue where they hold that.
That looks a lot more like our early shows. They're a little smaller, a little more community oriented.
Yeah, it was a nice experience. And like I said, we're going to Mountain West, and most likely we'll be going to East as well. So we'll hit all 4 of them this year of the actual Overland Expo series, and I'm excited about that. I love seeing how, even though it's the same crew of people, pretty much, how they set up things differently in different areas. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, it is fun. I do. We'll hope to hit the East show in the next couple of years. It's almost always at a difficult time for us to get away because we have commitments in England, usually in the fall, that we need to be over there for our partnerships with Tom Shepard. Jonathan co-authored the Vehicle Dependent Expedition Guide with Tom Shepard and part of the 4x4 book. I also published my books over there. So we both also take part in the Royal Geographical Society's Explore event every year. And so it all just comes all at the same time.
Yeah, it's all piled on all at once, I'm sure. And I've seen that, both you and your husband, Jonathan, are wonderful authors in your own right. And you guys have published numerous books and written articles and many other things. Is that something that you still enjoy very much? Do you enjoy, getting your thoughts down on paper and writing those books?
Oh, yes, that's our roots. We were, when we met, we were both beginning writers and wrote our first books together, natural history books. We've done about over a dozen books together and separately as well. And this year, after I sold the Overland Expo, we both went back to our writing full time. And this year, we're producing it this year. It will debut in 2024, a new magazine called Exploration Quarterly. And we're super excited to get back to our roots. It's going to be such a fun magazine. Just anything and everything you can think of that has to do with exploring, whether it's close to home or far from home, whether it's a massive scientific expedition or a personal journey up the Dempster Highway to Tuktoyaktuk.
That's fantastic. I can't wait to see it when it's published.
Yeah, we're having a lot of fun doing it. It's the hardest part is just picking. We have so many subjects that it's hard to narrow it down. But we're excited. It's going to be a lot of fun.
And you said that's coming out next year?
Yes, we'll be starting to offer our charter subscriptions and probably in early 2024.
Fantastic. That's great. So you also do a lot of nature journaling. Tell us a little bit about that.
So journaling has been part of my life since I was actually a little girl. And by journaling, that means keeping a diary of some sort. And in particular, for me, it was always science-based. I have 2 degrees. I have a background in journalism and writing, and I also have a degree in ecology and evolutionary biology. And so does Jonathan. And we both early on are naturalists. And study nature and teach a lot about nature. And I've always kept a nature diary. And in the last 4 or 5, well, maybe, gosh, I guess it's time keeps rolling faster. So let's say like 8 years, I started adding more art, drawing. I've always loved doing artistic things. It's something my family encouraged. And it's really grew during the pandemic. I wrote a book on how to get started nature journaling because I really love encouraging people to connect with nature. And it's a perfect activity for overlanding.
Mm-hmm.
So you document your journey through writing descriptions, drawing maps, adding sketches of landscapes or people or whatever makes you happy. And so I teach that. I'm involved with a group doing a lot of that internationally. We do a conference every year. Now we have like 1,500 people coming online, and in person. We do events. It's really fun.
That's fantastic. I just got back into journaling. I haven't really started the drawing portion or anything. My daughter's the artist in the family. I'm not really that great at drawing, but I do like documenting our adventures and, talking about how I felt during that moment and the places we've been and the things we've seen.
Yes. And one of the things one of my big things is, so I would challenge you and say, there's no such thing as like artist in the family. Anyone can be an artist. I'm actually about to launch a class right now that I call Drawing to Learn. And I challenge that anyone can draw because it's like a language. You were born knowing a language. You had to learn the words and the grammar and the syntax. And that's all drawing is. And it just takes time and effort. And, you're not going to do it overnight. And some people have more natural ability to kind of grasp the syntax, if you will, of drawing, but that doesn't mean you can't learn it. I'm totally self-taught, and I'll always be learning, but it's really, really fun and very gratifying when you can sit down and sketch that bird or that pretty landscape you see from your camp or something like that. It's really, really fun. So you'll have to check out the class. I think I'm going to launch it in the fall.
I think I'm going to need to check out the class because, like I said, she kind of has a natural. She's self-taught. She's an amazing artist. My dad is the same way. My dad is amazing at drawing and painting and all of that. I don't know. Maybe I need to just practice more.
It takes time. It just takes, we call it pencil miles. You have to put in the miles. It's just like learning any off-road skills. You're not born being able to get into a vehicle and understand the dynamics of driving or how not to get stuck. You have to learn it and you have to practice. So that's all it is. And it's really fun. It's also, the mindfulness is really good for us. That time disconnected from phones. I encourage people to turn off their phones and get away as much as possible. And the journaling lets us do that in a way that's just extremely. I love the analog. I love the just a pen and a notebook. That's it.
Absolutely. It's very therapeutic. And it's great to look back on what you've written and see the places that you've been, and maybe something will, jog your memory that you didn't remember necessarily right off the bat, and you read it and you're like, oh yeah, I remember that.
Definitely. Absolutely. I was just looking at my journal from 1993 when we had our sea kayaks on our Toyota truck, and we drove from Tucson to Inuvik. So we drove the Dempster Highway in Canada, and that was so epic. That was a real adventure back then for sure. And that was back. That was like hell. That was before electric fridges. So this is hilarious. This actually made us eventually buy a fridge because do you know how expensive ice was on the Dempster Highway? And even in 1993, we were paying $8 a bag of ice.
Oh, wow.
Oh my gosh.
By the time we were done, I think we had spent, I don't know, $60, $70 on ice. And, that was a good long way toward a fridge at that time.
Yeah.
if they existed in the U.S. But that adventure, when I look back on my journals, and then we put our kayaks in the Mackenzie River in Inuvik and kayaked down to the Arctic Ocean and down the coast to kayak. And I just love looking at that journal. And one of the things I found was a sketch in the journal in one of our camps on the Dempster. I had sketched what I thought the perfect layout of a build in the camper would be for a truck in the future. And I'll be darned if it didn't end up being almost exactly what I designed for the interior of our troop carrier, 30 years later.
That's fantastic.
It was really cool.
That is cool. So what else have you been up to other than, journaling and writing these amazing books and
travel?
All of the things, travel? Where have you been lately?
Our focus since we sold the expo, we've done more. We returned to Baja again, which was something we hadn't done in probably 20 years, which was wonderful. So we spent February in Baja, and we also in 2021 bought a 1938 log cabin in Fairbanks, Alaska. We fell in love with the Boreal North when we were there in 1993 when we did the Dempster. We just fell in love with the high north, and had returned in 2021 to research one of Jonathan's books, and were just blown away. Just fell in love with Fairbanks. The quality of life here, and that's where I am right now, is just eclipses what we had in Tucson. We are both Tucson, Southern Arizona natives, and it's just changed to the point where the life there is frenetic. There's too many people. It's now, I think Pima County is nearing 1 million people, and we're here in Fairbanks. Everyone is focused on nature, and I love a place where, so it's fishing season started a few weeks ago, and you'll go to your favorite liquor store, and it's closed. I'm like, what? There's a sign on the door that says fishing. Literally, people are like, you'll go to the whatever, and it's like, no, the hours cut back. It's salmon season, man.
It's time for salmon.
Yeah, and same thing happens in the fall with hunting. So that's another reason both Jonathan and I love to eat self-harvested food. We really prefer that. We don't like commercial meat. So hunting, fishing is a huge part of why we're here. And also just the culture here. People are friendly. It's really slow. It's slow living. You have to build in an extra 10 minutes to go to the hardware store because somebody's going to strike up a conversation with you, and the checkout person is going to have a conversation about, hey, you guys been fishing or what, oh, I see that you're, look at that truck you're driving, tell me about that. Or I don't know. It's just a whole different way of living here. Mm-hmm. We just love it. It's harder, the winter's crazy hard. We did our first winter last year, minus 40. I went hiking. We went hiking. I won't call it hiking. We went sliding around on the trails at minus 20. You don't do that at minus 40. But it was cool. I even sketched and watercolored with using alcohol instead of water.
So it wouldn't freeze?
Exactly. Yeah. It was fun. And it's really neat. The town just empties out. Only the diehards stay.
Yeah, I spent a few weeks in Kodiak. It was late July, early August, and got to experience that and do some salmon fishing when I was there.
Nice. Oh,
and we went on a 40-mile ATV ride with some friends all through the backcountry, and it was fantastic. It was one of my favorite trips, and I've been quite a few places. It's still one of my favorite trips I've ever experienced.
Yes,
I just
we
love it.
liken it up here. Once we get up above, so we can be above the Arctic Circle in 6 hours, and it feels like Africa, like parts of Africa. So we've been we've crossed Africa. I used to work in East Africa when I worked for a conservation organization. So I've been in some real backcountry Africa, and the most amazing places. So we've been Botswana, South Africa, Tanzania, Kenya, Ethiopia, and it feels like that kind of wilderness up here. It's, there's big animals that can kill you, and you feel different when you're out there. And it's not like Australia where it's big and open and wild, but it's also pretty tame. Yeah, the weather can kill you, but
Yes.
you don't have to. In Africa and Alaska, when you have to think about where you're going to the bathroom, right?
Right.
Is there going to be an elephant or a lion or a grizzly or an angry moose? You just think about it when you're going berry picking. You just don't go wandering off.
Yes. And your competition for the bears, they like berries and fish.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. It's, it's more the moose because they're just not smart, and they're also easily startled. And whether you're kayaking or fishing or berry hunting, they're the ones that you really have to watch out for.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to startle them and then they startle you at the same time. That would be rough.
No, you couldn't outrun a moose.
No, they are fast. That's one thing I noticed when we were heading back in the evening on the ATVs. We looked up on a ridge and saw a bunch of bears coming down the side of the ridge in Kodiak, and I was amazed at how fast they can move.
Oh yeah,
as big as they are.
Yep, yeah. So we love being in a place where we're reminded of our place on the planet.
Yes. So do you go out and forage? I know you mentioned picking berries. Do you go out and forage different herbs and plants as well, in addition to hunting your own meat?
Oh, definitely. And I'm still learning, but I've got my calendar of what's coming ripe. So blueberries are ripening, raspberries are coming up. I've got cloudberries. We did spruce tips. I missed the birch syrup season, but you have to be here for. Sometimes the seasons are really quick. I'm not conversant yet in mushrooms, so I'm too scared to pick something that'll kill us.
Yeah.
But I'll learn. So yes, so definitely I'll often go foraging while Jonathan's fishing.
Yeah, I like doing that as well. I like learning the different edible plants and different ways to prepare them. I know
I love it.
How to make dandelion flour and bread. That was pretty neat to do with the children, and I just like learning different things like that and passing that on to them.
Exactly, it's wonderful, and everybody does it. It's really fun. You can just ask anybody advice, and people are really, really generous. They may not tell you their favorite berry patch, but they'll help you with recipes. And loads of people garden. I don't garden because we travel too much, but things grow up here like crazy in the 24-hour sunlight.
Yeah, they don't want to tell you their favorite fishing holes either. Just FYI.
Oh no. We went. We did our first salmon fishing last week, which we're just learning. You got to learn. It's not something either of us had any experience with, so it's just a whole new thing. So we thought we had hit the season for coho for reds, but it turned out it had just switched to king salmon, which unfortunately you're only allowed then one per day per person. So that kind of nixed our plans for filling up the freezer because we didn't get one. And so that was like, oh, dang. So now we have to go back. But that'll be fun.
So do you have any future trips planned? I know you said you're going to England probably in the fall.
Yes. a book tour in England in the fall, and we're both presenting at the Royal Geographical Society's Explore event in November. And then, for our next big overlanding, I think both of us are planning. Well, there's two things we're planning. We're going to at some point jump in our troop carrier Land Cruiser and head back down to Peru. We have driven from Ushuaia to Peru, and we've driven from Arizona all the way up to the tip of North America. We've driven both the Dempster and gone to Tuck, and we drove the Dalton a couple years ago, which is not really much of an adventure anymore, but because it's partly paved now. The only danger are the trucks running you off the road. Yeah, but we haven't done Arizona to Peru, and we'd like to close that so we can have driven the whole length of the Americas. And we don't measure, we don't count, we don't know how many countries we've been to. We don't count, we don't have a bucket list. We just go.
Yeah.
And most of our adventures are unplanned, literally. I mean, we bought our Land Cruiser in Australia quite accidentally. It was not planned. And then we spent 3 years exploring Australia. So that was pretty amazing. So, but I do think we'll do that. And then between now and well, from this fall till the fall of 2024 is the 50th anniversary or birthday of our FJ40 Land Cruiser. And so it's 50 years old, November. And so I think what we're going to do is drive it up here to Alaska. So for its birthday and take it all the way to the Arctic Ocean.
Well, that sounds awesome.
That sounds great.
That could be amazing.
What a birthday present for it.
I think next spring we'll come up with the 40. So it'll be the 40 at 50.
Very nice. And you guys have your 39th wedding anniversary this year, correct?
Did
that already happen? Or is that...
right. That's happening in. Oh no, it just happened. I just forgot. Oh, oh my God. We were on our way up here. Yeah, life got in the way. We were late getting up here, so we were traveling on our 39th. Did
you both forget?
I think we both were just like, oh, heck. It's happy anniversary, hon.
Wow. Well, happy anniversary.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, well, it's wonderful to be with the same person for that long. It's just fantastic. So, yes, next year we'll drive our 40th anniversary, the 50 at 40 and us at 40. The 40 at 50 and us at 40.
Oh, wow.
There'll be a lot of milestones to celebrate.
I know. Really awesome. And at some point, we'll probably ship the troopy back to Africa. I really, really miss Africa.
That's on my bucket list.
It's amazing. It is Botswana, and we like to encourage people, like for their first times, is going to Botswana and Namibia are the two easiest countries and less expensive than Tanzania and Kenya. Kenya is almost impossible to import your own vehicle because of their carnet is just absurdly expensive. So is Egypt. But so in Egypt, when we did an expedition there, we used other people's Land Cruiser, but I'd love to have our own vehicle again in Africa. So we had our troopy in Africa for 2 years. We left it there and went back and really enjoyed Botswana and Namibia. They're so easy. You don't need reservations. We just kind of went by the fly. We discovered some incredible little parks, out of the way places. We did one of the most difficult backcountry 4-wheel drives we've ever done into the Uchab River region of Namibia, which was epically amazing. And we were the only ones in this camp and had desert elephants just come and just right around our camp, and this huge bull stood right outside our camp next to our land cruiser, just basically looking at us like he was guarding his herd so that we wouldn't bother them while they got water. And it was probably one of the finest experiences of my life, and we wouldn't have been there without being on our own, overlanding, independent. And that's why we overland. That's why we love independent travel. You don't get that with a paid a tour, right, where they take you to at 7 o'clock, you're going to go to Atasha, and then you're, get in the vehicle and you're with 12 other sweaty people in a minivan. It's no, that's no, please. So yeah, that I look on that as we were there to look for. I've never seen a rhino in Africa in all the years I worked there, because sadly they are getting, well, that's not true. I did see a rhino in northern Kenya, but it was in a preserve. It was a captive. Well, it was actually the one that just died. It was the last of the white in the north. So, but I've never seen a wild one. So we were there in Namibia to look for the wild rhinos there. We saw tracks. We saw fresh tracks, but didn't see one. So we'll just have to keep going back.
Yeah, I mean, you might as well.
You might as well.
What else do you have to do?
Yeah, it's surprising if you have the time to wait and you can save up a little. It's not too expensive to ship a vehicle in a container. Again, like I said, if you have the time to wait, like for your vehicle, you wait until you get the best price, which means your vehicle is going to be in the container. It could take it 5 or 6 weeks or more, maybe 8 weeks to get there. Like we watched our troopy go from we thought getting it from Australia to Durban, South Africa would just be a straight shot, but no, it actually went to Singapore, then way the hell up around the Pacific, and I think it went to Los Angeles, and then it came back, and it just went all over the place. But it was only, at the time, we split it with another vehicle, so it was $2,800. You can't rent a vehicle for that. I know renting a vehicle for a month in Australia would have been about $8,500, maybe $9,000. So yeah, and then having your own vehicle that really well, that's
important.
You can appreciate that. It's gonna, how to work on it. It's gonna work, and plus it's your own. It's got all your stuff, and just really recommend it. So. Yeah, you can wait and bide your time. Shipping from Houston or Los Angeles to Durban it's affordable.
Yeah, I've heard different mixed things about that, and I've been told that Houston is one of the best places to ship from the United States.
Well, it just depends on which port is the busiest and what's going in and out. The best you need to get a broker who can look at the traffic and know which ports have the most ships going to your destination. And that's the main thing. You can't, it's not like buying an airplane ticket. You don't get to say, well, I want to go from Houston to Durban and I want to get there in X amount of time. No, you're at the vagaries of commercial shipping, which is about getting products into marketplace. You're just one of a bazillion containers. They don't really care. So
that has to be nerve-wracking too, though.
It is. Our friends, do you guys know Tim and Kelsey Huber, Dirt Sunrise?
Yes.
Their vehicle got stuck during they were shipping during the awful period where the pandemic disaster with the shipping crisis hit. So I think their truck was in limbo for, you'd have to just say this months and months. Their truck was just out there because that was when everything went haywire. We discovered just how weak our shipping how unstable it is.
Oh yeah. Arla works in transportation, and she's told me some stories about crazy stuff during the pandemic, and it blows my mind.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Trying to get product in, just tons of ships just sitting out in the ocean.
Yeah, it was pretty epic.
Just sitting there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Idling, if you will. I mean, there was a site you could get on and look at them, and it was just all these little dots. You could zoom in on it and see which ship it was. It was crazy.
Yeah.
So we had a comment a few minutes ago. Where is it? Adventure therapy? Yeah. Next year I'll be 50 and it will be our 30th anniversary. I want to do a cool trip like that.
You should.
Do it.
Yeah. Don't wait. Don't wait.
Do it.
Don't waste your time.
We're going to be hitting South America next year. I'm not sure how we're going to do it yet, if we're going to ship our vehicles, or because there's 5 of us, so we'll probably have to bring 2 vehicles if we ship our vehicles.
Oh yeah, that would be a challenge.
Yeah, so we're still working out the logistics and whether we're going to ship something or we're just going to rent something while we're down there or buy something there.
Yeah, sometimes the economics is more just fly and rent or fly and buy and sell.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we thought we were doing in Australia. We thought we were going to buy, fly, sell, and then we bought a Land Cruiser troop carrier, and it was like we got there and we're like, we're not selling this.
I don't want to sell that. No.
We fell in love with it. We're like, oh my gosh, this is one of the best vehicles ever.
Yes, that's coming back with us somehow.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but a lot of people, you would not have any trouble selling a vehicle, reselling in South America, because you just put it on a forum and then somebody's going to want to fly in and buy it.
Oh yeah, I've been watching all the forums, seeing if there's like the perfect rig for us.
Exactly. So highly recommended.
Absolutely. So what's some advice that you would give a solo female traveler or a family that's just now getting interested in overlanding and doesn't know where to start? What would you tell them?
Oh, but the first thing I would say is you don't need a lot of stuff. Just go. Just go. You can do it in whatever vehicle you own right now. It doesn't need to be a fancy 4-wheel drive. People have driven around the world on Vespas, in Citrons. Just go. I see a lot of people using the excuse of, oh, I just need to build this out. Oh, I just need to add this. Oh no, we just need to upgrade this. No, you don't. You really don't. It makes life maybe a little nicer, but in the end, just go. And start small. If you're intimidated by longer trips, just start small. If you're starting out solo and you've never done that before, again, start small. Maybe find some people you maybe go with at first, so you get comfortable. Do know how to work on your own vehicle, at least have the right tools, and do some basics. And that'll make you feel more comfortable. But yeah, I don't have any experience traveling as a family, so that you guys are the experts at that. So I do know loads of people who have kids on the road, they were loads of people who were started out just a couple and then added family while they were overlanding, had babies on the road. It's not impossible. I think we tend to put blinkers or blinders on here in our safety of North America, which is a vast continent. We're very lucky. It's an amazing place. You can spend your whole life exploring North America and never get bored. We're so lucky. So you don't have to go far to find incredible places to go. Baja, Canada, Alaska. Alaska's easy. It's a long way, but it's easy.
Yeah. That's kind of what we started with. We wanted to explore North America before we ventured out to any other countries. So I think it's a good place to start, especially if you're from the States, start traveling around and exploring in your own backyard per se and get more comfortable. And then, branch out into other countries and other places. And, there's a learning curve. We have a learning curve now with shipping a vehicle versus buying one, maybe possibly sight unseen or.
Oh, yeah, we did it. It's so Jonathan and I have this thing we call jumping off cliffs. It's something we've done since we were very young. Is we would be presented with an opportunity, and fear of the unknown, fear of things not working out, stops us from doing things, stops people from doing things. And so we would just grab each other's hands and literally jump off the cliff together. And it's like, we've never crashed to the bottom. We've always survived in some way, shape, or form. Maybe we come out different at the other end, but and one of those is we wired $14,000 US to buy a Land Cruiser in Australia that we hadn't seen, and then we paid some guy $10,000 to saw the roof off.
Oh wow! Yeah,
that's really
that's
smart.
great.
Oh my God! Great. Okay, so. And yeah, did it all work out perfect? No, there were problems with the vehicle that we discovered. The Australian mechanics, or we unfortunately had some really bad ones, and they screwed us on some stuff. So it probably cost us another $5,000 to fix the crap they did. Because our Land Cruiser did a Land Rover imitation. It blew a seal in the end of the gasket. And the block, and because somebody put in a Chinese crap imitation instead of Toyota gaskets, and so we had an oil meltdown. We were like, oh my God, we just did a Land Rover.
Yeah,
but fortunately we caught it anyway. Yeah, that's the risk. Did it all work out perfect? No. Did we survive? Yeah. So, yeah, you just do it. You just do it, or you'll always be sorry you didn't.
Absolutely. I like that, holding hands and jumping off the cliff together. At least you've got each other, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. We've done a lot of that over the years.
Okay. So last question here. What's a bit of advice you would give to Arla? And I haven't been married quite as long as you guys have. Arla's getting close. What's it, 30 years, Arla?
Be 29 next month.
29.
Yay.
We're going to be hitting 19.
Nice.
So what's some advice you would give us newlyweds here?
Oh, let's see. Well, how have we best survived? Well, we've always had our own separate bank accounts, our own vehicles. Yeah. I never asked him how many guns he has, and he never asked me how many motorcycles I have.
Ooh. I like it. I'm down with that.
I like it. I do.
Yeah. Good advice. Keep everything separate. Got it.
I got to start separating things because all of our stuff's together. Whoops.
Oh, that's why you guys argue. No, I'm just kidding.
Really partly joking, but the one thing in the off-road community that always really bothered me was when men would refer to their wives as handbrakes. Have you heard that? Maybe it's gone away. Handbrakes, as in they are keeping them from doing what they want to do.
Oh, no.
Oh, good. See, that's gone away. So no, that's a good thing.
That did not go over well.
In the forums back in the day, in the 2000s, I would see that on the forums, like, oh, the handbrake won't let me buy a new rack for the truck or whatever. And that just always bothered me. First of all, to refer to a spouse as an object, that's like I'd smack him. But
absolutely.
Yeah, but I think that respect for each other and understanding we all have our own comfort zones, and it's not male or female, but we're all going to have different comfort zones doing our overlanding. It might be X person wants to bring this much luggage and the other person doesn't think you should. Well, you know what? It's none of their business. Just
I agree.
If it makes you happy, bring it. I don't know. I think that respecting each other's comfort zones and fears is big. It's important in the overlanding sphere, and not expecting someone to you both to have the same comfort zones, and that works both ways, men and women. It's not one or the other.
That's fantastic advice.
It was good advice.
I agree. Well, thank you so much, Roseann, for being on the show tonight. And really quickly, go ahead and tell everybody where they can find you on social media, where they can pick up your books, all of that great information.
Thank you for having me. Yes, our website, which we've been running for a long time and have blogs, both of us, including Jonathan's very popular Overland Tech and Travel, is at exploringoverland.com. And all of our books and workshops and training that we offer are on there. And I'm on social media at Instagram, Roseann Hanson, and on Facebook, also have a page, Roseann Hanson Explore.
Perfect.
Awesome. Love it. Thank you so much for coming on the show tonight.
Thank you.
And I hope to see you at another expo and serve on another panel with you.
Yes, definitely. Absolutely. It was so fun. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for watching tonight. And you can catch this on Spotify and Apple Podcasts probably tomorrow afternoon. I'll be uploading it tomorrow. So thank you again. And be sure to subscribe and follow our journeys and watch the amazing people we get to talk to. Have a great night.
Good night.